Think of an English island, what comes to mind? The Isle of Wight, perhaps, or maybe the windswept Isles of Scotland? Well, I want to tell you about an island that's often overlooked. It's a place hiding in plain sight, just a stone's throw from the mainland, yet it feels like a world away. This is the Isle of Sheppey, a slab of land moored in the Thames Estuary off the coast of Kent. It's not your typical postcard destination with quaint tea rooms and manicured gardens. No, Sheppey is something else entirely. It's a bit rough around the edges, a bit mysterious, and absolutely brimming with stories that most people have never heard. This is an island of stark contrasts. You'll find sprawling nature reserves right next to industrial ports. You'll see holiday caravans parked not far from the walls of a major prison. It's a place where history isn't just in museums. It's literally crumbling out of the cliffs and lying half buried in the mud. For centuries, this island has been a strategic outpost, a dumping ground, a secret haven, and a cradle of innovation. It's seen Viking longships, the birth of British aviation, and devastating floods. It's home to some of the rarest insects in the country and some of the richest fossil beds in the world. So let's peel back the layers of this extraordinary place. Forget what you think you know and join me on a journey to the UK's secret island adventure. We're going to dig into its past, explore its wild landscapes, and meet the community that calls this unique island home. To get to Sheppey, you have to cross a bridge, and that simple act feels incredibly symbolic. For most of its history, the island was properly isolated, accessible only by ferry. This separation bred a unique culture, a sense of being apart from the rest of Kent, a world unto itself. The first bridge, the Kingsferry Bridge, which opened in 1959, was a marvel. It was a lifting bridge, a mechanical giant that would raise a whole section of road and railway into the air to let tall ships pass underneath into the Swale, the channel that separates Sheppey from the mainland. It was a gateway that could and often did close. I can just imagine the scene. You'd be sat in your car, waiting. The barriers would come down, bells would clang, and this huge slab of concrete and steel would slowly ascend. It was a forced pause, a moment to remember you were leaving one place and entering another. Then, in 2006, everything changed again. A new, much bigger bridge was built alongside the old one. This is the Sheppey Crossing, a soaring, elegant concrete structure that arches high over the Swale. There's no lifting section here. It's high enough for ships to sail underneath without any fuss. Today you can still see the two bridges side by side, a perfect illustration of Sheppey's past and present. Driving over it, you get a fantastic panoramic view of the marshes and the water. But as you glide across, it's worth remembering that for hundreds of years this simple journey was a real undertaking. That feeling of crossing a barrier, of entering a different realm, is still there if you look for it. Now, let's talk about what makes Sheppey truly ancient. We're not talking about castles or Roman roads here. We're talking about a time long before humans ever set foot on this land. The island's northern coastline, particularly around the towns of Minster and Warden, is made of a special type of clay called London clay. And this clay is a treasure trove. It was laid down on the floor of a warm, tropical sea around 50 million years ago. As the cliffs are constantly eroded by the sea, they give up their secrets, and those secrets are fossils, incredible, perfectly preserved fossils. This isn't a place where you might be lucky to find a small shell or two. We're talking about something on a completely different scale. The cliffs of Sheppey are world famous among paleontologists. They have produced the fossilized remains of sharks' teeth, turtles, lobsters, crocodiles, and even the earliest known ancestor of the horse. Walking along a blustery English beach and picking up a piece of a creature that lived in a tropical paradise 50 million years ago. It's like having a time machine right at your feet. For centuries, local people have been fossiling here. It's a part of the island's culture. You just need a sharp eye and a bit of patience, but this incredible natural archive is also a fragile one. The same erosion that reveals the fossils is also eating away at the island itself. The coastline is constantly changing, with chunks of the cliff collapsing into the sea each year. This makes the hunt for fossils a race against time. What is revealed one day could be washed away and lost forever the next. Sheppey's history is a strange mix of the grand and the grim. You only have to look at its main towns, Sheerness and Queenborough, to see this. Let's start with Queenborough. Its name gives you a clue. It was founded in the 14th century by King Edward III, and named in honour of his wife, Queen Philippa. He built a magnificent castle here, a truly state-of-the-art fortress for its time. It was perfectly circular, a masterpiece of military design built to control the Thames Estuary and watch out for French raiders. For a while, this was a place of royal importance, a strategic hub with a direct line to the king. But castles don't last forever. Queenborough Castle was demolished just a few hundred years later in the 17th century under Oliver Cromwell. Today, almost nothing of it remains above ground. If you walk around the town, you can trace the faint outline of its moat, now just a gentle dip in the ground of a local park. Now, let's jump forward to the 19th century and head to the neighbouring town of Sheerness. Here you find a very different kind of history. This is where you'll find the prisons. HMP Sheppey is a complex of 3 correctional facilities, and their presence is a huge part of the island's identity and its economy. The oldest parts were built by convict labour. In the Victorian era, old, decommissioned warships known as hulks were moored in the estuary and used as floating prisons. The conditions were dreadful. The prisoners were put to work building the new dockyard and sea defences. So you have this incredible contrast right here on this one small island. On one hand, you have the ghost of a royal castle, a symbol of medieval power and prestige. On the other, you have the very real, very imposing presence of modern prisons, a legacy of Victorian social control and punishment. Kings and convicts separated by centuries, but sharing the same patch of land. Most people associate the dawn of aviation with places like Kitty Hawk in America, but would you believe that the Isle of Sheppey was the very first place in Britain where powered flight really took off? It's true, at the very beginning of the 20th century, a small patch of marshland near the village of Eastchurch became the epicentre of British aeronautical innovation. It was here in 1909 that a chap named John Moore Brabazon made the first officially recognised powered flight in the UK. He flew a flimsy-looking biplane for a distance of about 500 yards. This wasn't just a one-off event. A small community of pioneering aviators was drawn to Sheppey's flat, open landscape. The Wright Brothers, who would become famous aircraft manufacturers, set up the world's first aircraft factory here. They built planes under license for the Wright Brothers. Why Sheppey? Well, the land was flat, open, and crucially, it was cheap. There was plenty of space to build sheds, lay out a runway of sorts, and most importantly, to crash without hitting too much. The island's isolation was actually an advantage. It meant these early aviators could experiment in relative peace. The Royal Navy soon saw the potential of this new technology, and Eastchurch became one of the first bases for what would eventually become the Royal Naval Air Service. Sheppey was at the very forefront of military aviation. Today, much of this history has faded back into the landscape. The old airfield is still there, but it's part of the prison complex. However, there are memorials dotted around, and a fantastic little aviation museum in Eastchurch keeps the memory alive. To stand on that ground and realise that this quiet, unassuming corner of Kent is where Britain's journey into the sky began is quite something. The waters around the Isle of Sheppey are, honestly, pretty treacherous. The Thames Estuary is just this maze of shifting sandbanks, strong tides and, well, really busy shipping lanes. For centuries, this place has been a ship's graveyard. Countless vessels have met their end here, from Roman galleys all the way to modern cargo ships. But you know, there's one shipwreck in particular that's captured people's imagination more than any other. It's lying there in the mud just off the coast of Sheerness, and it's honestly one of the most dangerous wrecks in the world. I'm talking about the SS Richard Montgomery. This was an American liberty ship packed to the gills with munitions on its way to support the war effort back in 1944. But before it could finish its journey, it ran aground on a sandbank during a storm. The ship's hull cracked and it sank, taking all that deadly cargo down with it. And yeah, a huge amount of that cargo is still there. We're talking about an estimated 1,400 tons of high explosives. The wreck is monitored around the clock. There's a permanent exclusion zone around it, and experts are always debating the best way to deal with it. If the explosives were ever to go off, the blast would be absolutely catastrophic. It would cause a massive tidal wave and send a column of water and debris thousands of feet into the air, shattering windows for miles around. It's a ticking time bomb sitting right on Sheppey's doorstep, a chilling relic of the Second World War. But the Montgomery isn't the only secret the estuary holds. The shifting mud and sand sometimes reveal other older wrecks. There are tales of Dutch warships sunk during the raid on the Medway in 1667, and there are even rumours of smugglers' ships that went down with their illicit brandy and tobacco still in the hold. Beyond the towns, the prisons and the caravan parks, there's another Sheppey, a wilder, emptier Sheppey. This is the Isle of Harty, at the far eastern end of the island, and the vast Elmley National Nature Reserve. These are places of just huge open skies, sweeping marshland crisscrossed by dikes and creeks, and, honestly, an incredible abundance of wildlife. For nature lovers, especially bird watchers, this part of the island is nothing short of paradise. It's actually one of the most important wetland sites in the whole of the UK. The Elmley Reserve is the only family-run national nature reserve in the country. It's just this massive expanse of grazing marsh that teems with life all year round. In winter, the skies fill with tens of thousands of wading birds and wildfowl. You can see these huge flocks of lapwings and golden plovers, their wings catching that low winter sun. You'll find widgeons, teals and shelducks dabbling in the pools. It's also one of the best places in the country to see birds of prey. Marsh harriers glide effortlessly over the reeds, and you might even be lucky enough to spot a peregrine falcon or a short-eared owl hunting over the fields. What's really special about this landscape is its sheer scale and that feeling of remoteness. You can walk for miles along the seawall and honestly feel like you have the whole world to yourself. The only sounds are the cry of the birds and the wind sighing through the grass. It's a place that kind of forces you to slow down and just watch. You can sit in one of the hides for hours, just observing the constant drama of the natural world unfolding right in front of you. It's a deeply calming and restorative experience, a complete antidote to the rush of modern life. This wild heart of Sheppey is also home to some much smaller, but no less important residents. The marshes are a vital habitat for rare insects and plants that are found almost nowhere else. This includes the ground-lackey moth and the scarce emerald damselfly. It's a delicate ecosystem, carefully managed through traditional grazing with cattle to maintain the perfect conditions for all this wildlife to thrive. So, we've journeyed across the bridges, hunted for fossils, and explored the island's history of kings, convicts and aviators. We've seen its wild heart and touched on the unique character of its people. The Isle of Sheppey is clearly not your average tourist spot. It doesn't offer the polished prettiness of the Cotswolds or the dramatic mountains of the Lake District. Its beauty is of a different kind. It's a raw, honest and sometimes stark beauty. It's found in those vast empty skies over the marshes and the powerful, relentless action of the sea on its clay cliffs. The reason Sheppey is so worth exploring is, honestly, because it's so often ignored. It's a place that defies easy categorization. It's an island of contradictions, ancient and modern, beautiful and bleak, natural and industrial. To visit Sheppey is to step off the beaten track and engage with a part of Britain that feels authentic and unfiltered. It's a place that really challenges your perceptions. You might arrive with one idea of what it's like, but you'll almost certainly leave with a different, more complex and far more interesting picture. This island is a microcosm of so much of Britain's history. It tells stories of coastal defence, industrial boom and bust, pioneering spirit and the enduring power of nature. It's a place for the curious. It's for people who want more than just a pretty view. So next time you're looking at a map of the UK, let your eye drift to that chunk of land nestled in the mouth of the Thames. Don't just see it as a blank space or a place to pass by. See it as an invitation to explore a landscape rich with 50-million-year-old secrets, to walk in the footsteps of aviation pioneers, and to experience a corner of the country with a character all its own. Give the Isle of Sheppey a second look. I promise you'll find an adventure that is as surprising as it is unforgettable.